Hello, everyone, and welcome to the No Guts, No Galaxy podcast number 179. And I know that's correct today. We are your hosts, Daeron and Phil. Today is Wednesday, September 11th, 2019. And how do you do? Great to see you all here. Phil, you here?
Yes, I'm here, man. How are you?
Good, man. Pretty good, I should say. It's been kind of a shitty day. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I decided I've been getting up early. You know, our daughter's back in school, so I get up at 7 a.m. every morning and help get them ready and get them out the door and so forth. And then I've been just heading up to my office at that time. So I've been getting up here earlier, which yesterday I streamed when I first got up here. So I've been streaming earlier. So this morning I decided to sleep in a little bit. I tried to sleep in a couple hours longer than I normally do, but I was woken up because we rent the house that we're in, and the sewage started backing up downstairs. So
Oh,
I've got to
man.
sit. Yeah, like I said,
Did you
shitty
wake
problem.
up to the smell or did
No,
someone
just
wake you up?
phone calls happening and
Oh, man.
realizing something was going on, and
It's
so
literally a shitty day.
yeah, literally. And we have guests over, so it's happening in the guest bathroom, their bathroom, as well as our other bathroom downstairs, and you know, it's all bubbling up through the toilets and the bathtub and the shower. And, you know, since we're renting, we have a landlord, and she was trying to kind of not take the expense on as an emergency. She wanted to wait for people to come out tomorrow. But like when I went to check it out, I mean, I have a weak stomach already to some extent. I mean, as a butcher, I can be around blood and I can be around guts, but the smell of raw sewage, I was just retching. Like I was. I'm amazed I didn't throw up.
I
But
can see it now.
oh, dude,
Man, that's a bummer. Yeah.
yeah,
No. That's not something you can like brush off. It's like, "Oh yeah, that
no.
sounds like we can wait till tomorrow to, if it's still going on." It's like, "No, there woman, like you need to fix
Well,
this."
so my wife was first dealing with her and doing it, you know, as good of a job as she can. My wife gets frustrated, but she's good at. I've always emphasize not pissing off landlords. You know, all
Yeah.
of our
Sure.
landlords from the past, we have really good relationships. We get great referrals. And so there's always that element of don't piss off your landlord. And so my wife, I think, because of the way I react to that, I think was being a little bit light. And I just came in and I'm like, our house smells like shit. I'm gagging. Like, you know, this is as emergency as I've ever experienced. So anyway,
Yeah.
a little bit of a shitty day, but now it's getting better because we're doing the podcast.
You
How about
know,
you?
well, obviously my day's not
Not
in
as
that
bad
direction.
necessarily.
But it's funny you mentioned that. I have a little story down memory lane. So when we were in Afghanistan in
Knew it was going to
04,
be military.
yes,
Yep.
'04, we had these huge like tents that we lived in. It was like 500-man tent. I mean, we had bunk beds basically for 500 Marines in this very small space. Right behind, for those that may be listening in Kandahar, this is Kandahar by that way. Right behind, we were at the end of the fob. There were, I guess, sewage ponds that they basically
Ugh.
had the aerator and stuff in the middle. I mean, and it was right behind, probably maybe 100 yards, maybe behind where we slept. And so some days, on bad days when the wind would change, but we PT'd every day and we'd run around these ponds, and there was like two big ponds, and it didn't bother me, but you're running and you're breathing all the, I mean, and it's just sewage, just all in. And one of our Marines, we called him Sergeant Ronnie. He didn't have a good stomach, and so we'd be,
Oh shit.
we would be running, and I'm not joking. So you're like full PT, and I'm like he
That's
would
what I
just,
was doing this
and
morning.
we would egg him on so bad, like, and so we would start acting like we were gonna do it as well, and just
Jeez.
acting like, man, we used to fuck with him all the time, but
I bet.
like sewage, yeah, it's not cool, man.
I
Like,
can handle, like I said, I can handle blood and guts
that's
and all
that's
that.
different. That's
It's
not
totally different from
that's
smelling poop,
the
man.
smell.
It's not like somebody just,
Oh,
you know,
man.
like somebody just took a dump in your bathroom and needed to light a match. I mean, this is
Yeah, no, it's, yeah.
But enough about that.
So last time we talked, you were eyeballing and talking about ship homes, and I brought up container homes. I've gone down the
Oh, yeah.
rabbit hole, by the way. even
Have you?
further. Yeah,
Dude, you got to share those videos with me. I
like
love those.
it's pretty.
Yeah, so tell me where you're at as far as your house hunt. Now,
Well,
it just
we're not.
happens to be that we're both kind of considering different living situations at the same
Yes.
time, right?
Well, I mean, so there's the fact of we live in this house and we're happy here, but then we've always sort of wanted to live in the mountains. And
Yeah.
so, like we live near Raleigh. And so that's a pretty, I mean, it's about 3 hour drive away, 3.5 hour to the mountains. And so what we're thinking about is just getting some property and maybe building or over the years or, like get a little container thing or something
Dude.
small. And then as we grow and we're looking at possibly starting a family next year and stuff over the years, like then worry about expanding. But then on the flip side too is like our job allows us to move anywhere, right? I mean, as long as we have good
As long as we have internet.
right? Good internet
Yep.
too.
Yeah.
Reliable, I should say. And so I mean, there's the potential that maybe next year, if her contract ends, that she could potentially move to another site or whatever. And there's a few, her contract agency and stuff, there's stuff up in the mountains as well. So I mean, there's always the possibility where we could actually move out of this home, which would be it wasn't what we planned per se, but depending on what she wants to do with her career and
Right.
if she wants to. But yeah, I mean, dude, it's pretty crazy. You could build your own. There's some things like I didn't realize, like
There's templates.
yeah, there's templates out there. There's companies that you can actually buy already like pre-made stuff as
Prefab,
well.
yeah.
For a pretty decent price as well.
Yep.
But then if you want to do your work, I mean, plus you have to get the permits, zoning. If you're going to do that, are you going to have a septic tank, water, electric? How does all that, line up,
Yeah.
internet? And then on top of that, I discovered that there's 20-foot and 40-foot containers, and
Yes,
it's
there
crazy
are.
that they pretty much ship them here from like China, and they don't ship them back. It's too
Yeah.
expensive. So they come
Yeah.
here and they like basically
They
recycle. They sit or recycle them or just don't do anything.
More and
with
more,
them.
though, there's people doing this,
Yes.
and there's companies like you mentioned that are working with them. So you can, I think it's just becoming more and more of a popular way to go.
I mean,
now, you're not wanting to go off the grid, though, right?
no,
Yeah.
but I mean, if depending on where your property is,
You could become self-sufficient if you wanted to.
yes, like I mean, and so like it would be like maybe you still have electric, but you still do solar, so it helps supplement or or something like that. But
Right.
like I'm looking at it from like a cost savings, but of course environmental, I guess, to your reuse and materials. But there's other factors. There's 20 and 40-foot regular containers, but what you can do is you can get extra height on some. I forgot the exact name, but they're basically a foot taller. So instead of 8 feet, they're 9 foot tall. And I mean, I'm only 5'7", but being able to have that headroom.
Hey, man, any extra space and not feeling claustrophobic. Yeah.
So we're looking. I'm looking at it. I'm the one who's deep diving. My wife is totally on
How
board.
does she feel?
No,
Oh,
actually,
that's good.
she digs it. I think what we're
Yeah.
leaning towards is something like a U shape, where then in the middle you basically have a deck, and your
Nice.
kitchen is in the middle container, and so you can pretty much, it opens up, and you've got this movement space. Yeah, so I think from a like building and cost, it could
Plus
be
something different and cool.
it's different and cool, sure. And then you've got to look at wherever you get land that the semis can get there, and then you also need a crane to be able to lift them and place them.
Yep.
If you're not in city limits, there's really not as much restrictions too. So like they don't dictate like what you can or can't do, generally speaking. So most of the land that you see is outside of city limits, but some isn't. So, but we're also looking at like maybe just smaller homes. Like maybe if, for instance, she wants to change her career, remove, we could potentially just get a smaller home as well. So, I mean, it's really,
Sure. A lot of options, and
Yeah.
it's fun to look at the potential. Container homes, I think, get a stigma, and people have an idea of, oh, container home, it's got to look like a container.
No.
But man, there are some that look like just beautiful
Yeah.
multi-million-dollar homes the way they've done them. And I just saw a video on YouTube. This land developer down in, I want to say either New Mexico or Arizona, they just did an entire apartment complex out
Yep.
of these containers. You know, like you can just do some really cool shit. And
You gotta
yeah,
you gotta look at it as more of the containers can literally be used as the framework as well. So not necessarily the wall. Some designers keep the walls
people
and
do
roofs
everything.
where
Yeah,
it's industrial look. Some covered up. I mean, I've been watching stuff on how to frame. Some people,
Yep.
almost all of them frame inside, but you lose a few about
Inches.
Yeah, on three on
Yep.
one side, three on the other. But there was one where they actually insulated on the outside instead, so they didn't lose that space. And then plus, because they're able to do that, they're able to actually add more on the outside. So insulation's a big thing. Spray foam is pretty much a go-to because apparently, especially in metal,
Yeah.
it creates condensation, so you have to close up all that. And we live in North Carolina, so heat would be an issue. So
Have you thought about like half building underground to keep it cooler and shit like that?
So ground also, if you raise it off the ground, because air helps circulate. Having some type of roof structure or a structure that, like if you put it up on sort of stilts, so that again it creates an air buffer as well. Not having direct sunlight into your windows, but having enough windows so you get plenty of light. I mean, there's so many cool things.
It's a lot to get into, huh?
Yeah, and it's really down the rabbit's hole. But at the end of the day, it's about like right now. I mean, why I'm not bummed if we do end up moving is because we have a lot more house than me and my wife need. Even if we had a kid. So you sometimes you realize maybe just maybe the image in your head of suburbia or whatever isn't exactly how you lined up.
Who put that image there? Is a lot of times a question, and I feel like that's culture and society sometimes.
I think 50s, 60s is sort of the idea of like having
our parents.
But I mean, it's again, I'm not disappointed.
Not complaining.
I mean, very fortunate, but so that and then there's the houses where they're just sort of made out of local materials as well. There's designs that you can pretty much design a house so you don't need AC at all, even in hotter environments, because you're using multiple elevations and airflow.
There's thermal heating and cooling. I love that geothermal heating and cooling.
Well, and
very cool technology.
You probably run into this just because of the temperature where you're at. You live in a climate similar to what is up in the mountains here, like even where you're at, whereas even it doesn't get as hot. And when we were up for the I had a bachelor weekend a month ago, we were up in the mountains where we're sort of talking about, and you didn't need AC. Like you just open the windows and the airflow was, I mean, it was perfect because of shade and stuff like that. So anyways, it's some really cool stuff.
It's awesome, man.
A little bit scary stuff because you're like, I don't want to move, like, but
you want to talk scary, dude? Think about moving onto a boat.
I look at it as it's an adventure. Like the biggest thing is, so there's that. Yeah. What about you?
We've gone further down the rabbit hole if we want to keep the similar situation as far as boats. I mean, for those that don't know, we're looking to live aboard a boat. My family, it's just my wife and I, and we have a daughter, 8 years old. And so right now we're living in a big Victorian 5-bedroom. I have a separate office, and it's just way too much space for us. And
what is the allure to you? Like what is why did you attach yourself to this idea compared to just downsizing, or compared to, is it financial? Is it intrinsic? Is it economical? Is it environmental? Is there
elements of all that? I mean, basically the same thing. For years I've been looking to downsize. Before we moved, the only reason we moved into this house is because it was the only one available when we moved in the area where we wanted to be. So it was well over what we wanted to spend. But it was all that was available. This town just doesn't get a lot of rentals. Anyway, I've been looking at, like school bus conversions. I've been looking at tiny homes. I've been looking at container homes for years. I've been watching the YouTube videos and just diving into downsizing and didn't really know for sure that we were going to go in a specific direction. What got me into boats was moving here to Port Townsend. It's just a total boating community. And as we've lived here, we've gotten to know people that are liveaboards and become friends with them. And it basically opened,
You guys, there's terminology.
Yeah, liveaboard.
Liveaboard. I've never heard that until you mentioned it.
Yeah. They're
But
called
it makes
liveaboards.
sense.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and you pick terms like that because when you're talking to people, you got to call it something. But anyway, there's whole communities around it, and you can just Google it, and you'll see. And yeah, as Devil Cran brought up, there's definitely built-in expenses with boats. They require monthly maintenance for sure. But talking to everybody, reading books, I've read a half a dozen books already. I'm reading a half a dozen books at the same time right now. Constantly reading. Every book I read refers to another book that I add to my list. And I've watched a million YouTube videos on it. And I've talked to people. We just this last weekend went and talked to some friends about 20 minutes away that live on a trawler, and we have some friends right here in town that live on a sailboat, a monohull, and just started talking to everybody. And the more we talked to, Rebecca and I love sailing. Since we've been here, we've gone out sailing from little long boats to sailboats to ferries to cruise ship. And, just we've been out in the water a lot, and we love it. We absolutely fucking love being on the water. And I grew up in Santa Cruz, California. She grew up in the East Bay. We've always been around the ocean. The sound of seagulls and the smell of ocean air is just home to us, both of us. We both have a strong connection with it. And our daughter loves being on boats. She knows how to sail better than we do. The last 2 years, she's been doing sailing camp during the summer. So she literally can go out there in a little sailboat by herself at almost 9 years old and sail around. And she just loves it, And
Gotcha.
so, and she's not adverse to it at all. She sees it as being an adventure. And basically, so there's multiple reasons why we're looking at it. One is because we want to go cruising as much as possible. It's going to become, I think, a big part of our life is just whenever we can get out and go sailing. The Pacific Northwest has like 1,000 destinations for sailing, whether it's around here, the islands that we live around, or going up to Canada or Alaska,
Friday,
the Inside Passage.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday, you guys could literally just undock and roll to across the harbor and go to restaurants and stay
all
there.
Over the place, dude. There's Victoria and Vancouver Island is right next to us. So, and all around Vancouver Island, which is almost the size of California, there's all kinds of places to go.
How does that work with do you have to bring your passports, and how does that work when you're docking a boat?
Basically, yeah, whenever you dock in another country, you have to first go somewhere and say we're here and you register and all that. But if you're out at water, because a lot of times you won't dock, you'll just anchor at places. Basically, the Coast Guard can board you at any time.
Gotcha.
Don't have to give you a warning. They just pull up and say, we're coming on board, and, they check everything.
Cool.
But the other reason we're looking at it, not just for adventure and fun and because we love boats and want to downsize, but also financially, even with the built-in costs of having to maintain a boat every month, you have to, if you own a house, just talk to our landlord who's now having to pay for this.
Yeah.
It's actually cheaper to maintain a boat. Depends. There's a lot of
on how big of a boat.
Absolutely. It's about as big. The bigger the boat, basically in the boat world, everything is by the foot. So every foot you add is just more expense in every situation. So we're trying to basically find a boat that's as small enough that we can live comfortably. When we first started looking, I'm like, oh, look, there's a 115 foot old battleship, and I was thinking, how cool would that be to live on? Or, we just, over the years, over the months that we've been looking into this, we've just downsized to a realistic level. Now we're looking about something around, mid 40s to mid 50s in as far as feet length. And it's actually cheaper for us to buy a boat and maintain that boat with all the costs of, dock life, living in a marina for part of the year. And you can still hear me fine, right?
Yep. Just 1 second.
Something with the stream is going on.
Yeah, there it goes.
We're
back?
Still
good. Yeah, I think we're good. It's just a hiccup there.
Just a little hiccup. Anyway, it's all of the above, including expense. It's excessively less expensive for us to live on a reasonable sized boat than it is to rent a house.
You said something surprising to me when we were talking about all this offline, and you said there's waiting lists. There's this is a thing, but it's a thing you don't have in normal conversations with people. So this is a whole
Well, people get just like when you're talking about a container home, I think people have preconceived notions of what that means. Like, ooh, you're going to be living in a shipping container? How gross, or whatever.
Right.
Same thing with talking about a school bus conversion. But I've seen school bus conversions that are like palaces inside that look like a 5-star
Yeah.
hotel or whatever, super clean and modern. And the same as boats. You have shitty old boats where somebody doesn't care about it and doesn't maintain it, and you have palaces on floating on the water, that are absolutely spotless. And so it's really up to you to maintain your boat. But it's totally comfortable. They
Gotcha.
are like apartments floating on the water, and
You should
we're just
you
looking
should
forward to it.
find like an old like fishing boat to
Well, that's what a
renovate.
trawler is. So basically, trawlers are like that. It's trawlers mostly
I'm,
evolved
I'm
from
talking like
fishing boats.
Forrest Gump,
Really fishing, yeah.
like for like that, like
Hey, I've looked at them, dude. You can buy a boat, retire it from whatever trade it's in, and convert it, but it's expensive. We
yeah,
just want to
yeah,
buy something that's basically turnkey and live on
yeah,
it,
yeah.
that's comfortable. Plus, I'm not I don't know how to.
Do all
I'd
that,
have to
but you
learn.
can learn.
Which we're 10 minutes from one of the best boat building schools in the country, and so I'm going to be taking classes, engine maintenance, electrical, plumbing, all that stuff, so we can learn how to do it ourselves.
Gotcha.
But yeah, anyway, it's exciting, it's scary, and we're looking forward to some change and some adventure whenever it happens.
All right. Well, we will continue to update you guys and of course ourselves
On ourselves, yeah.
on our adventures, if you will. But TLDR, Daeron wants to be a pirate,
Boat captain,
and
pirate.
I want to.
And you want to live in a container,
I want to live in a steel box,
a hole in the ground.
a Hobbit home, if you will, which is
there's
appropriate.
cool Hobbit homes too being built in the Pacific
Dude,
Northwest.
those, I would love it.
Right?
I would love it.
I know.
She jokes because like some of the homes I've liked in the past were, she called them Hobbit homes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, they're not in the ground, but that would be cool
Yeah.
too. Anyways, all right, so we'll update you guys. Yes,
Let's move on from homes. You watching anything cool? Movies, TVs, anything good recently?
So what just okay? So me and the wife, we haven't started it because she wants to watch the original first just to catch up. But The Dark Crystal.
Oh yeah.
So
I have that on my list, man.
Yep, we're gonna watch that. I remember watching it when I was a kid, but I don't remember the premise, so I may watch it with her.
Dude,
Yes.
It was before we moved, so Micah was probably 6 or something, and I thought, yeah, The Dark Crystal's a good movie. And so I put it on, and you know what scene it went right to, because I think that's where we left it or something like that, was that part where one of the Skeksis
I don't
melts.
remember. I don't remember any.
Oh,
of it,
dude,
so.
one of the evil things like melts. When it dies, the body decomposes like fast forward, and it just melts into bone and shit. And I think I like
Freaked her
totally
out.
scarred my daughter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now she doesn't want to watch it because she remembers
Oh.
that, and she remembers
Way to
the
go, Dad.
Skeksis. I know, I totally ruined it. I got to
Good.
figure out a way to. Now she's watched Harry Potter, and those later Harry Potters were pretty fucking scary. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get into it. Yeah, Dark Crystal looks good. Anything else?
Let's see. A lot of comedy.
Chappelle, Bill Burr. You watch any of those recent
So
specials?
Bill Burr just came out with a special like 2 days ago. I watched
Yeah,
Joe
we just
Rogan's.
watched it last night.
I watched Joe Rogan's podcast with him, and so I haven't watched it because my wife would want to watch it because we love Bill
Yeah.
Burr. It's always funny
He's
though.
so offensive, but he's so right on about
Yep.
so many things. It's like
But
that. And I watch my wife because I can just see she's like, well, that's totally offensive, but then she's laughing.
Well, that's what comedy's for. And
Yes.
one thing that I
We got to be able to laugh at ourselves.
well, but you need to be able to, like, it's the last frontier. Like, and I 100% agree with this statement. I don't think any comedian should have to apologize. I don't, for whatever. I think that's the point of comedy.
I wonder if there are exceptions to that.
No.
But I know what you're saying, and I agree to it for the most part.
I understand what that means, but I also realize, like,
It's a freedom of speech issue.
I don't want to
It's
hear,
comedy.
I don't want to hear any comedian apologize for any joke, anything like that. Like, if it has to do with military and they're joking about it, I'm not going to get butthurt about it.
What if, like, Kramer, when he freaked out and it wasn't part of his act, he just got pissed at somebody in the audience and, called him the N-word or whatever. Do you say the same thing because he's a comedian and he's on stage that he's allowed to do that, or do you think
No, that's different. That's not a part
that
of
is
his
different?
act. That's
Yeah,
him
yeah.
just being him, and if he's an
Yeah.
asshole, he's an asshole. So like
Yep.
that's his like, hey dude, you should have. Well, one sucks that they have to deal with hecklers, but at the end of the day, you open your mouth and it's not
Yeah.
part of your act. Because and that's one thing. What's been really cool about that podcast and with listening to so many comedians is we just see the end product, right? They're special,
Yeah.
and
They work on it and
oh,
work
dude,
on it
Kevin
and work
Hart,
on it. Yeah.
like he does. It's almost like a 2-year process where.
Yeah.
So you think, oh, these guys are just funny all the time. I mean, yeah, they're funny, and I'm sure they could. But when you hear them sort of say like, oh, I could get up on stage for like 20 minutes and kill it, but then after that, it's because they have to build up these
They're honing their act and
story,
their craft.
their stories and stuff like that, and how they dissect them, they remove parts, they add things, they. But anyways, it's really good. So I need to watch that. I've been
Pretty funny, man.
It's funny because me and you, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I really love his podcast in particular. And
We're talking about Rogan.
yeah, Rogan. And the thing I like about it is, one, he'll even say he's not the smartest dude out there, but a podcast has helped him learn to listen and become more intellectual. And his guests that he have that I find just absolutely amazing are like scientists in the field, researchers and stuff like that. And I can't get enough of it. And anyways,
Did you watch the whole Area 51 guy? I can't remember his name.
Yes.
Dude, Bob Lazar.
Yes.
Holy shit. I
Have we talked about
I watched
this?
that. I don't know if we did on podcast, but I watched it with my wife, that episode, and then we watched the Netflix documentary.
I did as well. So that's actually the process I did as well, as I podcast and I remember hearing something growing up about it, but like I didn't really understand the 90s.
From the 80s, dude.
Yeah,
no, it was from the 80s.
Well, I know, but like I lived in the 90s. I remember hearing like, oh yeah, this guy. But here's my thing as far as that. I told one of my Marine buddies down the road about it, and so he like went down the rabbit hole on it. And I'm like, here's the thing. I believe he worked at an installation for the government. I 100% agree. Yes. And what he said back then is actually, it lines up, especially with like the hand readers and stuff that now it's out that those. So he worked. Now, what he worked on, you do have to question, everything. He was given reports to read. Obviously, disinformation is going to be rampant. And he even says, like, and one thing that I like about his story is, regardless of what he was consistent across the board. And when he didn't know something, he didn't embellish, he didn't make up some shit. So for me, do I believe in UFOs? I don't know. I have to see him to believe him. Do I believe in UFOs as far as like unidentified flying aircraft, as far as, or now they're not even called that. What are they called? It's a different.
I don't know. They keep changing it. Yeah.
Yes, I do think there's stuff, but I'm going to assume that it's just humans doing shit or having craft or flying something. Now,
until you're proven otherwise.
Well, and recently with all the footage, and you hear stories of which, by the way, aviation pilots, commercial side as well. You say anything about seeing something?
They have no.
You're
gain.
done. No, you're done. Like you're not.
You're not going to get rich doing talk shows talking about UFOs.
It ruins their career.
Fucked up. Yeah.
So for me, the
and military pilots,
military guys recently, and this is where I really. Sometimes politicians, for other reasons, piss me off when they're like, yeah, they're not a reliable source for like identifying stuff. It's like, no, these are fucking fighter pilots that are trained for years, that fly for 20 years.
I know.
Fuck you. Yes, they are. And here's another thing that sort of adds credence to at least his how he said the craft operate, which was, he said normally, you think of an aircraft or a UFO, the normal stuff to where it just, flies around. But he always said, no, actually how it works is the machine flips to its side and directs depending on where as far as his,
you're talking
and then
about
it goes.
Bob Lazar
yes.
said that.
Well,
and then there's footage.
Yes, there's actually
from
footage.
A military pilot.
Yes, of the ship doing just that. So
yeah.
It doesn't mean that it could be literally the same craft as well that or technology. So the question is, what you have to understand is we just don't know where that technology comes. He says on this, as far as he knows, one, we didn't have the knowledge as far as the materials, and I think that's really what it comes down to, is material science. It's like the structural integrity of ship planes and stuff has improved, so they're able to pull off maneuvers and stuff. He said that didn't exist, and we didn't know of any of stuff, propulsion, energy source, and blah 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 at the time. So he said this has to be extraterrestrial. I saw like 9 ships, but what you don't know is you don't know if that's true. I mean, you just don't know. So I'm not going to jump to assume that it's aliens.
What I believe is that Bob Lazar believed everything that he said. I've seen, people that study body language. He did, the lie detector test.
Yeah.
I believe 100% that he believes it. And it kind of blows my mind what's possible. Beyond that, I don't know.
Yep. And one thing that I liked about, I forgot if it was on that one or if it was on a different one, which is they mentioned imagine the technology that we have that is never going to be seen because it's on a shelf, because if that technology gets out, you don't want it to be captured. So like,
sure.
So like you have
better that nobody has it
yes,
than our enemy has it or
so,
whatever.
As far as the aliens and stuff, like I have to see it to believe it. I'm not some like crazy conspiracy theory.
Okay, how about the moon landing? No, let's not get into that. I'm joking.
Yes, as far as I'm aware, we landed on the moon until otherwise proven, otherwise.
Yeah.
By Buzz punched that dude. Did you see that video?
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, so I love his podcast. Watch a lot of comedy. I haven't finished The Boys, but I need to.
Got to finish that, man. Boys is a good show.
And Stranger Things 3.
Stranger Things
I haven't
3
finished
was
it.
okay.
Yeah,
to us.
We
felt
through.
basically like one was the best, second best, third best. But we started watching Carnival Row.
Oh yeah, the Amazon with
Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom, yeah.
It's okay. It's good. I mean, it's it's okay. It's not bad. It's not great. It's but if you don't have anything else to watch, and then I think that's pretty much it. I think we got some things on our list, but we haven't checked anything out.
Yeah. Anyways, I'd like to say thank you guys for tuning in or listening on YouTube or SoundCloud, which, by the way, if you didn't know, it's on both. Support for this podcast is brought to you by our patrons, our Twitch subs, which, by the way, it is September right now. So if you'd like to help support the channel, it is $2.49 or $2.50 half price for that tier 1 sub. So consider it. We'd appreciate it. If you'd like to support the podcast, that's a great way. And of course, you can check us out on patreon.com/NoGutsNoGalaxy.
Bam. So let's jump into, we just talked, I think, a half an hour about completely non-mech
we could keep
stuff.
going. Yeah.
I know. We'll see what people think. Did we babble too much about stuff that you guys aren't interested in? Let us know. But anyway, we're going to get into MWO, MechWarrior Online.
Yep.
For some of you that have been with us this last week and a half, Phil and I have started some new schedules. We're pretty much streaming every day, either one of us or both of us. This week it's been both of us. I did an afternoon stream on Monday, morning stream yesterday. I think it's going pretty well. I did have somebody come into my stream yesterday and tell me to gas myself. I don't know if that was like a reference to my Jewish heritage or if he just meant that, I'm not as good as you are, which I, always say, like people coming out, you're not Phil. Where's this beard from or whatever? And I always let them know I'm not going to play as good as Phil. So, I don't know.
You give away things, though. You're like Santa.
I do give some
I don't
stuff
give away shit.
Well, I've been role playing. I've been role playing as the bounty hunter the last few times I've streamed.
Yeah.
And so I give away I cruise around in the Marauder 2, the bounty hunter 2.
How do you?
The Marauder, the bounty hunter.
We need to. Oh man, see, what would be awesome is like if you get to kill someone, you take something of theirs. That would be the best. Like, you like that XL 360? Oh, yeah. It's mine now. But yeah.
Well, basically, so I just tell people when I role play characters, which I'm going to add more to my, I'm going to add some more lore-based characters, basically, so I can give other heroes.
You're going to end up making me do this because it does
it's kind
sound
of fun.
Yeah.
And the community really gets into it. And I also had some people coming into the stream that didn't know about us based on, the role-playing aspect. And they just have a lot of fun with it. And basically, I give them a chance to salvage my mech is essentially what it is. So I've been having a good time with that. I'm going to be doing more of that, add some more characters to my repertoire. But anyway, how's the streaming been going for you?
It's been good. Obviously, for me, it's been one of those weird ones where, we don't really have a whole lot of patch stuff going on. So the discussion usually turns to Mech 5. And, you know, I'm going to be honest with everyone. I'm impatiently waiting.
Yeah.
Like
Totally,
I'm in
both
the
are.
same boat as everyone else. And
I think we're going to start getting involved, you and I, at least in promoting it
yes.
more over the coming weeks. And I'm going to say it could be a week, it could be 2, it could be 3, but I think we're going to have some stuff happening soon. So stay tuned. We don't know.
But
I can't tell
I'm
you what.
impatiently.
We are
I'm
both
not doing
impatient
a
about
good
this.
job.
Yeah.
I've had to fill that void with something else, but we'll talk about Mech 5.
Container homes.
Yeah, container rooms. We'll talk about Mech 5, but yeah, no, the streams have been good.
Yeah.
I think the handoff to you has been really good, or to me, vice versa.
Mhm.
And of course, Wednesdays, us having the podcast.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of which, we were supposed to have Randall on last week, but he double booked, and then we haven't heard from him because I think they're a little bit busy.
He double booked, but I think he was also at.
He was at
I know
PAX.
he was at PAX,
Yeah.
so he was super busy with that.
And then they've got all the Kickstarter stuff. So
Yeah, he's busy. We are going to get him on. I'll be emailing him again this afternoon, and we'll get him on as soon as possible.
he should just show up at their office, be like, "Hey, Randall,
right with the
I got this
microphone.
camera." Yeah, just be like, "Hey, we're gonna do a thing."
Yep.
So we had actually, I'll tell you what was really nice, double XP weekend.
Yeah, so we got the Get Schooled event
Yep.
and sale, and so it is a double XP weekend. It goes on through what, Monday morning?
I think we're almost done with it. I don't think. Hold on,
Yeah.
let me double check here. I think it's September 13th. Okay, so yeah, you've got like 2 more days.
Yeah,
I love double XP weekends because I'm like,
no
okay,
doubt, man.
because I mean it's a little bit different now. Like back in the day when you had to have 3 mechs, it was necessary. Now you get a mech and maybe you don't like necessarily, you can't find anything that you really like with it. You move on to maybe a variant that you do, and then like now, I was tackling some of the dervishes that I found a setup that I like on them. I just didn't max them out yet, so I was doing that. Some of the Marauder 2s, but then they also had it was like a 20,000 match score. That was like the final thing for the event. They changed it to 15,000. It was sneaky. I don't know why they did that, but
Matt.
yeah, I don't know. That was I was like, hold on, this was 20 yesterday. It's 15.
Yeah.
Anyways, so they've got that going on. But yeah, as far as streaming, I think it's been good. It's been, like I said, it's a weird time for us as streamers and other streamers out there, just because as far as content, there isn't any. I mean that it is what it is. Bug fixes here or there. And so a part of me is like, but then another part is like Mech 5 is just right around the corner. And so, yeah, we understand too. I've had a few people come in and that were, frustrated with things and stuff like that. And look, guys, I enjoy discussion. I really do. But I also have to say, I'm not your therapist. I can't make things change. It is what it
Now,
is right
for the
now.
proper donations, we can,
I can sit down and talk. No, but yeah, just a heads up about that. Like,
Yeah.
if you're just not wanting to see anything positive, sometimes Twitch chat just isn't for you, because like I can't, we can't do anything. Other streamers can't do anything. If you have questions about Mech 5 and stuff like that, definitely the appropriate is go post on the forums, or in this case, you can hit up Russ on Twitter and stuff. They respond, and if they don't respond, Daeron and I can't do anything about that. So just wanted to make that very clear. That is.
We'll get to that, Devil Cran.
Yes.
So the Get Schooled event and sale ends on the 13th. That's Friday, and I guess we'll be going into a new sale and event over the weekend. We also in MWO right now have the MWO Comp Championship Series 2019, which is something that Devil Cran was just referencing. Basically, we'll drop the link in there. This is the MWO Comp Championship Series 2019. Comp scene is very alive and active right now, and it's fun. Actually, not this last weekend, but the previous weekend, I did comp drops with Nutty Rat, and let's see who was else. Starwolf was dropping, and Pseudo was dropping, and so we had a bunch of teams in the queue, and we just had the fucking best time ever. It was so much fun. And you didn't
take yourself seriously. You were just having.
No, we weren't taking ourselves seriously. Neither was Starwolf's team. I think got beat the most. In other words, lost the most matches, but they were just having the best time ever. Like you jump into their Discord channel and they're just laughing, having a good time. We won most of our matches, but again, it was really a
Yeah.
good time, and it made me want to get into, if one of these units out there want to adopt me for some faction warfare, as long as they're organizing it and and just kind of bring me in, that's
Low
cool.
expectations, guys.
Yeah, but just being part of organized gameplay again was really fun, and Nutty Rat did a good job of organizing the team and had a good time. But anyway, let's get back to the point. MWO Comp, it's alive and well, and it was really fun. Stage 1 just completed, in fact, and Stage 2, the teams that are moving into Stage 2 will be taking place in September this month and October next month. Who moved into Stage 2? I think you have the listings, right?
Yeah. So, and this is these teams have received a direct seeding into stage 2 of the tournament. The exact order of seeding will be decided in playoff matches held through September. So, just this comes from the MWO Comp Championship Discord announcement section, which, of course, if you need to join that Discord, we can get you that information. But first place EMP, surprised? I don't know. I don't know who, who that team is as far as their members. So
Right.
I need to get 228 Black Watch in second, MJ12 in third, and Steel Adders in fourth. And so we fought
So some
against
familiar names and people, I'm sure, in there.
yeah, I mean all four groups. And then of course there was others that were going to be competing for the seeding and stuff. So and then of course then you've got the rest, right? This was the invitational.
Invitational, yeah.
And that's just basically like, hey, sort of like how they explained is these guys will get a bye, if you will, and you won't be bashing your head up against the top teams out there. And so you can do those drops like you guys were doing a few days ago or a week ago.
And I love watching MWO Comp. I mean, I've said it at the MechCons, and I prefer watching it over most televised sports and so forth. It's all my favorite stompy robots, and it's people that play 100 times better than I do, and I just have a really good time watching it. They've been streaming on their MWO Comp channel nonstop, and if you get a chance to check them out, I would do so. There's ways to support MWO Comp. I'll put one of the links in chat right now, which has to do specifically with me.
Yeah, the purchase an hour with you.
Yeah.
How much is that worth?
Well, depends on what your expectations are, because it could be off the charts. But basically, it's $35, and that supports MWO Comp. And I'll read their definition here. You're purchasing an hour with Bombadil. Big, huge asterisk. If even though they don't have it listed, I'm going to add it. This is not an hour in person, and it won't be in some purchase by the hour motel or anything like that. It says spend an hour playing with Bombadil, shooting at and talking all things MWO and life. Challenge him to MV1 1v1. Talk about BattleTech, or just have some relaxing games. Basically, we can work it out amongst ourselves. Whatever you want to do. If you purchase an hour, we can play some BattleTech from Harebrained Schemes. We can play MWO. We can just talk tabletop, or what it's been like to be in the franchise for 35 years. Whatever you want to do with that hour is totally cool. And it supports MWO Comp, which I think is an awesome cause. One of them, there was two there. One was purchased. I don't know who got it. Somebody's spending an hour with me. There's one left. I would love it if one of you out there would go and get it and just make me feel good, do my ego well, to see that both of them got purchased. But there are other ways to support as well. I don't have a direct link to the other ones, but I know that some people from Incoming Missile Podcast are volunteering some of their time, as well as Alto, the painter. You've seen some oil paints that he's done for the community. He's you can buy a painting, which is amazing. He's an incredible artist and totally worth the money that he's asking. And it, again, supports MWO Comp. You can buy training time from EMP and some of the other comp players if you want to get better. Totally recommend that. I should be doing it as well. Maybe I'll purchase that. Yeah, anyway, a lot of ways to support MWO Comp. And it's just great seeing the comp scene thriving and still having a good time.
Right. Next, we've got Mech 5. Speaking of Mech 5, the latest screenshot was released last week. I actually really like this one.
Let's talk about this screenshot and why you like it. The more I looked at it, I realized, yeah, I do too. This is a pretty cool screenshot.
I mean, one, the destruction, but two, just sort of gives you, it's better than just grassy sort of field and, mech and, stuff like that. I mean, it gives a sense. You got a tank, you got the mechs, you got these destroyed vehicles.
Armored vehicle.
Yeah, armored vehicles.
And also, you know what I like? The missiles coming from... What are the missiles coming from?
That's a good question.
But they have almost that Robotech, like, crazy swirling action going on, at least at the beginning of their flight path.
Yeah.
But a lot of missiles coming at these mechs. And yeah, it's just basically, I like the mix of the tank and the armored vehicle, the destructibility just completely crumbling. Yeah, it's a pretty cool screenshot.
It is a cool screenshot. I mean, what I was thinking about with each one of these screenshots that comes out is myself at 15 years old, 14 years old, like looking at 3D models and just been like, oh man, or like the intros of Mech Warrior games or Mech Commander, and just thinking, oh man, what happens when the games look, will we ever see the day when games look just as good then? And obviously, we've got a point now where games, the trailers are built on in-engine, in-game, footage as well, but the aesthetics are definitely up there, and the environments, the biomes, I'm going to be interested in that. And speaking of which, like, if you look at MechWarrior 2, 3, and 4, obviously, 2 in the technology back then, I had this little flashback yesterday while I was streaming, because I rock out with the MechWarrior 2 soundtracks, right? And
yeah,
and
classics.
This one song comes on, and I just, in my head, I remember.
Does it just take you right back?
Oh
to that
yeah,
moment?
I remember like because the Timberwolf. Like I remember the, polygon Timberwolf, but it had this like running gate, and I just remember, and like this little like running gate and bob, and I just remember, just because you could circle around your mech and with a different camera and like and just watch it and stuff, and I just remember like, just this beat and just takes you back. Like
yeah, dude.
It wasn't. At the time, it was amazingly, as far as like 3D, like your imagination. The campaigns in 2, especially Mech Warrior 2. So I went backwards. I got Mercenaries first, and then I got Mech Warrior 2 and Ghost Bearer because I just didn't know. But I remember Mech Warrior 2 Mercenaries just being really intrigued by the nuances of like buying and fitting and having to, salvage and purchasing mechs and equipment. And of course I was younger, so maybe I didn't have the best builds or whatever. I didn't really care, but I put thousands of, like, no shit. I put thousands of hours into those games, like combined, like cause I never played online when I had those games. I was young. So, the thing with MechWarrior 2 Mercenaries is that, right, you had this sort of overarching story that it did force you along to the clan and stuff. I mean, shit, I remember, right, the mission where you're on a drop ship, the mission or on a jump ship, the mission you're on like an asteroid, the one where you're in a hovercraft and you have to, escape. There's a Kit Fox, I remember that. And
I haven't played 2 in a long time, dude.
Oh yeah, like it was. So like part of me has the nostalgia of like, oh, it's an amazing. I'm sure if I played it now, you'd be like, but
yeah,
like the idea of what made it so original. I think too is it's as cliche as it's like it was your first experience, right? Like in some of those.
You
things,
always remember your first time,
right? And so, with this all being said, when I look at Mech 5 and I see how they're, the sort of open world star map with sort of an overarching story. You start at X period of time and then you end at X period of time. And then obviously that leads to potentially like DLC 2. The mod scene, what are people going to do? And just, I'm looking forward to it. I think that's to sort of take me back a little bit down memory lane, because Mech 3 for me had a great story. And I think what made Mech 3 amazing for me was the audio that they had, Morgan Kell and sort of the voiceover. I mean, the very intro of like you starting and your drop ships are getting shot down out of the sky and shit's going down and you're fine. And like the audio was really good. And the graphics were a big step forward from Mech 2 as well. I mean, visually, you didn't have as much like Foley, like the world didn't lived in because the technology still wasn't there, but still, it you could run over dudes, you could shoot them with machine guns as they were running around. It was just, I remember playing Mech 3 for the first time and just being like, holy shit. Like I needed to upgrade my computer.
Mech Warrior's always been good about that.
Right.
Forcing you to upgrade your computer.
But
yeah, I mean, yeah, dude, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's been 20 freaking years almost since 4. If not 20 years. And I'm dying for, like I can't play I can't get 2 and 3 to work on my computer. I've tried. I'm not as technically proficient as a lot of you, and I've seen other people out there that can get them to run, which is awesome. And I could probably put more effort into it and make it happen, but I can get 4 to run. And so I pretty much play through, Mech Warrior 4 Mercs once or twice a year, pretty regularly now, and have been for a very long time. So that's the one that I'm most familiar with as far as recently. I mean, I played the shit out of 1, 2, and 3 and 4, or 1, 2, and 3 when they came out. But I've been able to do 4 for a long time. And yeah, as far as 5 goes, man, like you were saying, like I remember the graphics back then thinking they were awesome, and obviously for the time they were. And we used our imaginations and sometimes you just close your eyes and you can experience it, whether the audio was helping with that or not. But yeah, I'm so looking forward to an update, for all the nostalgic reasons, but also just for just having something that looks good, that's up to date, that's current, technology. And
obviously the graphics aren't the end of the world. For me, and I made this reference, I think, last podcast when we were talking about the BattleTech, the game by HBS. One of the drawbacks that I see is like storyline, I feel like is so important. And so like, I'm really looking forward. I know they worked with Randall, on the storyline for this, the overarching storyline stuff. So I'm really intrigued how that works and how it plays out. The voice acting, what built-in scene transitions and stuff, like how is that going to go down? Because BattleTech the game versus like Mech Commander and stuff, and I feel like Mech Commander, because it was story driven, right? The mission, it was linear, exactly, mission 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that was the first operation, then operation 2, blah blah blah. So we went from 3 Mech Warrior 3 to 4, and for me, I felt one of the biggest differences between Mech Warrior 2 and 3 to 4 was it was completely different mech lab.
Yeah, lots of mech lab changes.
Not only the mech lab, but completely different on how canon loadouts were. Like and this is what's tough. I feel like us BattleTech fans can sometimes be our own worst enemy. Now that I'm older, I understand why they did what they did, right? And respecting the tabletop, but now how I look at it, and I said this a few days ago on the podcast or on the stream, which was you have to understand and not be so rigid in your thinking to realize that the reason why it works in the tabletop does not always and or even work in a real world 3D environment. And if you're like hardcore stringent about that not changing, you're an actually detriment to the franchise and sort of IP evolving, because yes, that works in a tabletop, but not in a 3D environment. And so stuff like hard points, which we'll get in a second, or weapon value, like an AC-20 has to do 20 damage, or like really that kind of mentality is actually very limiting, and I think holds the franchise back. And so
absolutely,
when you look at Mech Commander didn't have AC-20. It had heavy autocannon, because that's what they were. In BattleTech, in the novels, they did not, an AC-20, there was no AC-20.
Right.
This autocannon is a, 100 and 20 millimeter up to 200 millimeter, which is caliber. It's right. It doesn't do X damage. No,
Yeah.
So, and then also too is just what that means for the playability of your product and how that translates. And also too is one factor that we're really bad about as fans, and I see this in other titles as well.
Other franchises, yeah.
Yeah, and well, just other is just what it does potentially to the new player experience as well.
Oh yeah.
Like, yes, you don't want to dumb it down per se, but if shit's convoluted or hasn't evolved just because of whatever. Yeah. Anyways, so I feel like 3 to 4, that was the biggest thing. Another thing is graphically, I actually felt like 4 was a step back. It was a step forward in some aspects, but it was a step back. Like I felt 3 looked better, in my opinion, in some aspects, and 4, it just, I don't know. It was a weird time for computer games, to be fair. The whole 2000 period, because everything was consoles did it better. And it was easier, but yeah. So 4 to me, and here's the big kicker with 4, I just didn't like the story. I didn't like it. Even the expansions and I don't know. I just didn't. It wasn't as much.
I think that's a lot of that is personal preference. I mean, I know people that swear by 2, swear by 3, swear by 4, and I think it's where you were in your life as far as game playing. It's what your personal preferences are. I think they all have pros and cons for sure. I for better or for worse, I loved 1, 2, 3, and 4 for one reason or another. They all meant something to me, and I loved them, and that includes also the Mech Commanders and. And the other games, the ones that came out earlier in the late 80s. So anyway, yeah. But we were talking about Mech Lab and Hardpoint, and we did just have the Russ gave the Mech Warrior 5 AMA in regards to Mech Lab. So what did we learn?
So previously, up until this point, the Mech Lab for Mech 5 was actually going to be really restrictive to the players and to customization. Like, it still allowed customization per se, but stuff that you couldn't customize was like Indo and Pharaoh. Those things just, and I understand where they're coming from. Like, if you live in the BattleTech universe and you're a soldier or a Mech Warrior, right? If you're just a line Mech Warrior for some house guard, you're not doing any customizations to your mech. You're not changing the engine. The engine's just built in. It's like having, an M1A1 as a tanker. Like, I didn't change anything on the tank. You were issued it. You're not doing anything. So you weren't changing the engine. But when it comes to like Indo and Pharaoh is like, in the novels, Indo and Pharaoh were straight upgrades. There was no crit slots in the thing. Right. It was straight upgrades. The process, how to make the kit was more difficult because it had to be in space and so forth. But it got sent to the frontline units. So certain mechs started getting upgrades of Indo and Pharaoh, but generally speaking, other people couldn't. You could maybe find on the black market like refit kits. So that's something in Mech 5 that, you're not going to be able to do. We don't know about refit kits, which would really be nice. So like he's used the example, like if you take the JR7F, well, you got a Jenner that doesn't have it, and you have a Jenner that does have Indo and Pharaoh, and you find one, that's going to be a nice upgrade. Right. So I understand it from a variant perspective, because some variants come out that are just better, like off the production line. They've had those upgrades. Well, the other limiting factor for MechWarrior 5 in the Mech Lab was if let's take the Hunchback 4G, you were only going to be able to replace that AC-20 with variations of the AC-20, like the Luxor 9000 or whatever. Like, that's
just a different model of it.
Yes. Yeah. But you could not put anything else. You couldn't put a Gauss rifle. You couldn't put an AC-10. And again, I understand where they're coming from, because like MWO, mechs just get put to the wayside because they can do things that the other ones can do. Like, for instance, the Hunchback 4H, if it's able to put an AC-20 on, it's got more energy slot. Then why even bother with the 4G, right? So from a design perspective, what they did is apparently there was back and forth internally that some of them weren't happy. Russ even said he wasn't really happy with that solution, and some other developers as well and designers. And they came to say, hey, how about we change this up? And this is where it gets similar to Mech 4. They decided on doing hardpoint sizes and weapon sizes. So they have large, medium, and small. so ballistic, energy, and missile. And a AC-20 is the same as a Gauss rifle when it comes to it's a large ballistic. So you don't have to worry about, a AC-20 is 10 slots and a Gauss rifle is 7 slots. You can put it on there. And I guess the difference is the tonnage and then like how many extra slots can you put for ammo and stuff like that. So it's very similar to Mech 4.
Yeah.
How do I feel about it? I think it's actually smart because what that does is it still basically it gives the players more choices while still retaining the uniqueness of each variant. Like you're still going to be limited what you can do versus that Hunchback 4G versus a Hunchback 4H, right? Because the 4H may only have a medium ballistic. So you could never put that AC-20 and plus, others. Whereas, then it would have, 4 or 5, however many energy hard points, it'd be 5 energy medium hard points. I think this is smart. To me, if I'm honest, this is exactly what the franchise needs as far as taking it. And this is why retrospectively, when I look back at Mech 4, I see what they did. I just feel like they missed the mark because they literally changed the setups. Like we all know, like the Timberwolf has this weapon systems or the Atlas has this. And I feel like this is actually a really cool thing. And then on top of that, he got asked about what about DLC in the future in Clan Mechs? And he said, well, I hadn't really thought about it. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's probably thought about it, but they just don't want to say anything yet, right? But the reason why this is a smart system is then it allows Omni Mechs to have Omni hardpoints, which is what Mech 4 did, which was really intelligent. Again, the difference being is how they're handling that versus Mech 4, and I think that's smart. I think it simplifies the Mech Lab, which isn't a bad thing. I think the Mech Lab is overly convoluted in a lot of aspects. Customization wise, again, you're not changing out the engines of the mechs and stuff like that. I know that's going to be a kicker to some want the full blown MechWarrior 2. You can do whatever the fuck you want. But if you do that, there's no point in variance. And you run into that with BattleTech the game. You're not able to do that. Well, guess what? Rogue Tech introduce it or other mods do it. And some chassis just become pointless and it's just it's a power vacuum race. And so for me, and I'm sure there's going to be mods that do that. I'm not going to be using them.
Oh, for sure.
I want something, how I look at that, the Mech Lab change and what they're doing is, to me, that is a smart move that moves the franchise forward and the gameplay and what it does. I would like to see other stuff like that. Like, I think hit locations is another thing. Scale is an issue with some mechs. The bigger they are, the easier. But here's the kicker. This only has to do with like PvP. It doesn't matter as much as PvE. Well, what about Indo and Pharaoh? What about BAP? What about ECM? What about are we going to have secondary stuff like smoke grenade launchers, that certain mechs? What about other stuff? Let's take that step further. That's where I feel like having that, I guess, imagination is good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, of course, I've already seen within the community people saying, "Oh, that sucks. I want to be able to change everything." Maybe as Mech Lab, similar to MWO, whatever their preference is. I tend to fall on the opposite end of the spectrum. I love limitations and restrictions. I love them because, number one, it's like that feeling when you find that mech that you've wanted, that specific variant, and you get so excited you finally found one for sale. I like having to be creative. I like also being forced to use mechs that aren't your favorite mechs. Everybody, I feel, gets into this like tunnel vision. They want their setup, their mechs, their setup in perfection.
The fun should be finding that and then relishing in the fact of you found the variant that you wanted.
Oh, dude, I love that.
And what happened in BattleTech though is it got too easy. It was so easy to do.
You're running around in a lance full of atlases or whatever. I agree, and easy ruins games for me. I love complex games. EVE
Yeah.
Online, Daisy when it was first out. Complex, the more complex, the better. The more restrictions and limitations, the better. That force you to be creative. That get you excited when you get something that you really want.
That's where I feel like the
It was a good compromise.
yes,
So
I think the compromise and the mod scene, you're gonna have people that are like, oh yeah, well, how about we do it this way? That'll keep it more vanilla and stuff, and someone will take it like full rogue tech sort of style. But so anyways, hard point size is good. I think that's a smart move. So we got that. I know you've got to go, and I keep rattling on.
Well,
so
we just got a note from our plumber dude, $7,000 to fix it because there's roots growing through the pipe.
And you don't have to pay it.
I don't have to pay it. Our poor landlord. But anyway, that's what's going on. I do have to go deal with it. So let's run through right now what's going on with BattleTech.
Okay, so a quick update. BattleTech, there was just a patch 1.7. This is like a 4 gig patch. There's a lot of stuff in it. I haven't tried it out, but I know it came out. There's a lot of adjustments for balance in the Kamea story, rebalance, attack, defense. There's a lot of stuff. But
here's the link. I'll drop it.
Yeah. So keep in mind, if you are rolling any mods, this could and will potentially break it. I know it broke RoTech again. That happens in any big. So make sure to check that out. Update. I'll report back next week on that. So we'll get you. BattleTech.
Sounds good.
Catalyst Game Labs. They've had 2 major updates that you guys need to go read. One is a video, a map design. So go watch that. And then the Pledge Manager and maps. They're starting to get that set up for you. So that's good to go. We are supposed to have Randall on the podcast as soon as possible, and we'll continue to update you guys on that. We wanted to get this podcast out, talk about some stuff here. And of course, thank you for letting us blab on at the very beginning. Darren's got to go handle his shit.
I got to go handle my shit.
We just want to say thank you for coming out. We'll get this up on, again, YouTube, SoundCloud. If you guys want to support this podcast, it is supported by viewers and listeners like you. Please consider supporting in a variety of ways. Subscribe to our Twitch channel. It is September. It's half off right now. All you got to do is click that sub button. It's right up there. Go ahead and do it. We have awesome emotes. You don't get ads on this channel. We don't run ads, but Twitch does, so you don't get those anymore. Become one of our patrons. We've got a link down below. We got some, we post up when we do podcast and stuff like that. We got a merch store. We need to add stuff, Darren.
Yes, we do.
Okay. And of course, if you're going to shop on Amazon, use our affiliate link. Guys, a lot of you guys are upgrading your PCs. It's a great time to do it, by the way, with the Ryzen, and it's a good time. So if you're going to do that, use our link. It gives us kickbacks, or if you're just buying just random stuff, use it for that too. It all works. We don't get any personal information, but we'd appreciate it if you did it. Thank you, guys.
And also be sure to check out our website at NoGutsNoGalaxy.net. Check us out on Twitch at NGNG TV, YouTube at NoGutsNoGalaxy TV, Twitter at NoGutsNoGalaxy, Facebook at NoGutsNoGalaxy Podcasts, SoundCloud at NoGutsNoGalaxy, and for all the latest and greatest in mech porn t-shirts and mugs, be sure to check us out at NoGutsNoGalaxyStore.com.
This was your local No Guts, No Galaxy MechWarrior podcast. Signing off for tonight, this is Phil.
And this is Darren.
Until next time, Mech Warriors. Oh, yeah.